Hello designers, welcome back to the channel today. So in today's tutorial we're learning how to line your slit or local skirt with 2 yards of lining. Alright, this is 4 yards of lining. Now this tutorial follows from the last 2 tutorials where I had shown you guys how to line your local slit skirt, alright, with 1 yard of lining. Someone was asking, how do we line with a full lining? And so this tutorial seeks to address that. Alright, so here is my 2 yards of fabric. You fold it into 4 like this. Alright, now what we are trying to find is at what length we are supposed to cut our lining at. Alright, this is very important, so ensure that your edges are aligned. Alright, now the slit length or the skirt length for this person I'm working for is 38 inches. So you are going to add 1.5 inches to that 38 inches. So you're going to get 40.5 inches. So you're going to ensure that the length of this, alright, all the way to this side, that you can get 40.5 inches. As you can see, I have 40 inches, which is not up to. Alright, and so you're going to pull this fold a little bit down so that you can get that 40.5 inches. Alright, now once you get this, it will indicate the length at which you're supposed to cut your lining. Your lining should start from the top and come and rest on this side of the fold. That means you're supposed to cut our lining at 35.5 inches. Alright, so once you are assured of that, you set aside your fabric and you cut your lining. So that is what you see me doing. So you indicate your 35.5 inches where it's supposed to be, and then you cut it out. Alright, once that is done, guys, what we are going to do is, with the cutout, we are going to join it to the rest of the lining. Alright, you're going to sew it on the length, alright, one edge of the lining lengthwise. Alright, so like so. Now once you stitch it, you notice that there is a surplus. Alright, and so once you've sewn it, you're going to cut it off. As you can see, I have stitched it to the rest of the lining, and there is the surplus that you see. Alright, you can see that's right, the stitch. Good. And so we are going to trim off this excess. We don't need it. So you fold this side onto the lining like so, and you trim it off to ensure that it's straight and not crooked. Alright, so this is it, guys. Our lining is ready to be attached to our fabric. Alright, so you open up your fabric, you open it up, and what you're going to do is we are going to face our lining to our fabric. You face the right side of your lining to the right side of your fabric, and we are going to stitch on the wrong side. Alright, going to stitch from one end all the way to the other. Alright, now you see that the lining is short around this side. Some people prefer to cut the fabric to ensure that the lining is the same, but we have surplus lining from what you'll be sewing the cover with, and so you can cut a piece of that and align it to this side. So that is what I'm going to do. In our previous 2 tutorials, we had tucked in this edge into the lining, alright, because we were using 1 yard of lining. But for the slit, we want to sew this with tucking in the sides will make it too bulky. Alright, and so I have joined about 3.5 inches of lining to the length of this to ensure that everything aligns and that there is no need to cut my actual fabric just so it aligns with the lining. All right. So you see this first part we had stitched the lining to. Yes. Flip your fabric this way and then hold this side of the lining and bring it to this edge. All right. Once that is done, you see this. The lining has come to rest on the 35.5 point. All right. This ensures that your lining doesn't stick out of your slit or your skirt when you're wearing it. And so we are going to stitch this side also. Going to stitch it from one end to the other. All right. Now this is parallel to the first side we had stitched. All right. So once you stitch it, you have it looking like this. So we've stitched the two sides parallel to each other. All right. So you flip it this way. Now we've worked on the parallel sides widthwise. All right. Now what you're going to do is you're going to work on the parallel side lengthwise. Now, as you can see from the print on our fabric, there is no head and there is no tail. All right. That means any side can be the top of the skirt and any side can be the bottom. All right. So now here is one side of the one side of the slit. All right. Now you should ensure that you adjust it so that there is some on the bottom and some at the top. All right, some of the fold at the bottom and some at the top. Now because our pattern doesn't have any head or tail, you can ensure that both sides are equal. All right, that you share and have equal fold on the bottom and the same on the top. Or you can decide to reduce the top by a bit and have the bottom being longer. It doesn't change anything, all right, because there are no border lines in this fabric and there is no head and no tail on the patterns that we have on the fabric. All right. Once you're okay with the folds on both sides, you iron it out. All right. And then you're going to stitch from one side to the other. Once you're done, it will look something like this. Once you are finished with this side, you flip the other side and you do the same thing on the other side. Now, take note of the fold you had, the measurement you had kept for your fold. All right, now on this side, I had 3 inches, all right, for the bottom, and I had 2.25 inch for the top. All right, so as you are flipping to the other side, ensure that it matches the other side, the bottom matches, the measurement matches, and the top or the upper hem also matches with the other side. Right, ensure that this side you can get 2.25 inch for the fold. All right, so adjust it in such a way that it will equate the other side, and adjust the bottom too. All right, sorry. As you can see, it's a little bit more, so I will adjust and ensure that I have it at that 2/4. You want to hold this side with pins because we are going to trim off the excess before we stitch. Alright, the excess lining, not the excess fabric, because there is no more excess fabric because we had added extra lining. Alright. So iron it out to ensure that everything is straight before you cut out the overlapping lining. Alright. As you do so, trim off any lingering threads that will poke out at you. So I'm ironing it out, as you can see. And then you flip it to the right side. Do you see the lining? We are going to trim it out so that we can stitch this side of the fabric also. So once you've trimmed off your lining, you are now free to stitch this side. Alright, you're not going to stitch it all the way to the end. You're going to stitch leaving a little bit of gap, alright, because we have to turn this then inside out. So that is what you see right here. It's about 5 inches. Alright, it doesn't matter whichever match you want to leave so that you can flip it inside out. You can do that. So that's what you see me doing. I'm flipping it inside out. So once it's flipped, you have something looking like this. Ensure that you poke out your corners. Alright. Just as you see me do, poke it out. Now you see this side, the gap we had left, we are going to tuck it in like so. Once everything aligns, you are going to stitch it down, stitch it close. Alright, so it will look like this, very neat. Once that is done, you iron it out in such a way that your lining comes out creaseless. Okay, just as you see it turning out, do it exactly like so. Iron it to perfection. Iron it so that anyone who sees this then will know that you know what you are doing. So this is it, guys. As you can see, there is no tuck in on the sides for this lining of the slit like we had done for the other video. Alright, so thank you for watching, guys. I will advise that you check out that video of how to line your fabric with 1 yard of lining. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you. Bye bye.